here met Mr. Emerson.
What about Vicky Wayne?
Yes, and she arrived by taxi. But if you want my opinion, she doesn't much look like a society.
Never mind, Ella.
Is anything the matter?
No, I'm all right.
You seem to be upset. Pardon me saying so.
Well, it's because I'm fine.
Glad to hear that. Your mother has such lovely plans for the weekend party. I says to her, Mrs. Harwood, if you ask me, I think this party's just going to be...
Ella, can't you remember that a maid is supposed to keep her opinions to herself?
I'm sorry, Miss Doris. Honest I am. I guess I'm just a big failure.
No, you're not, Ella. Mother and I have been really happy with you.
This is my first job, and I'm trying hard.
And you'll learn, Ella.
I hope so. My one flaming ambition is to be an extra perfect maid. I'm really lucky to work for you and your mother. I said this.
You think so?
Oh, yes. It's like living in an old castle. When I heard you and your mother were moving here from the West Coast, I said to myself, Ella Tucker, if you work for those people, you're not going to respect it over here.
I hope you won't regret.
What was that?
Nothing. What time is dinner?
At 8 o'clock. Your mother says everyone should be here by 10.
It's 6:30 now.
So I better check up on some things. I'll make sure everything was up just right. If I get through this weekend without making a mistake, I'm a success.
Doris, I've been looking for you.
Yes, Mother?
Well, you should have been with me welcoming the guests. They'll be down presently.
Well, then I can help welcome them in here.
Doris, is that a letter?
Yes, it's nothing important.
This house party's going to be simply sensational. Mr. and Mrs. Faith said they wouldn't have missed it for the world. Carl Emerson's been looking forward to this weekend for days. Even Vicky Wayne is here. Frankly, dear, I didn't think she would come.
I wish none of them had come.
Darling, what a way to talk. You should see what the morning paper says about the party.
Did you notify the press?
Certainly I did, and we're written up in the chit-chat column of the society section. Listen to this. Mrs. Agnes Howard, niece of the late Albert Stillwell, will entertain with a house party this weekend at the Stillwell estate on Forest Lake Road. Mrs. Harwood and her daughter, Miss Doris Harwood, arrived several months ago for residence at the Stillwell Mansion. The estate has been unoccupied since the late owner's death last year. Mrs. Harwood's guests will include Mrs. Vicky Wayne, Mr. and Mrs. John Bates, Mr. Carl Emerson, and Mr. William Patterson Vaughn. What do you think of that?
Other than Vicky Wayne, none of those people bring any mention in the society column.
But we do, Doris. Uncle Albert was very prominent in this community, so it's only natural that his only relatives should be newsworthy.
Well, what would people say if they knew the truth about us? That you and I are almost broke, and the only reason we're trying to find a buyer for this estate is because we're skating on thin ice financially.
Doris, do you want someone to hear you? Of course I must sell the estate, and the people I've invited are the most likely prospects. That's why I asked Mr. Vaughn to come too. He's a very good real estate agent, and I have a feeling he can close the deal before the weekend's over.
You always told me that great Uncle Albert was a wealthy man, yet when he died, this old pile of stone and its gloomy furnishings was all that he left you.
I did think he had more than this, but his business was so involved, and I never knew much about his affairs. But at least we can dispose of the estate.
I don't want to sell this place.
Doris, what on earth is the matter with you?
You mustn't let Mr. Vaughn talk anyone into a deal this weekend.
I've never heard of such a thing. I'm going to get rid of the estate the moment I find a buyer.
Mother.
What do you want me to do? Open a museum in the house? Pasture cows on the front lawn?
Of course not.
Well, after all, we have to eat. And I don't intend to nibble on these old books and tapestries.
Wish we'd never come here.
I know what's the matter with you. You're still in love with Neil Parker. That's why you didn't want to leave the West Coast in the first place.
Neil Parker has nothing to do with this.
But from now on, you'll have nothing to do with Neil Parker. Thank goodness the two of you are hundreds of miles apart. And I'm certain Neil would be able to raise enough money to get out of Los Angeles city limits.
Neil is a success, Mother, and you know it.
How can anyone be a success who writes detective stories? I think I'm going to let my daughter marry a man who murders for a living. Why? I'd as soon be married to a gangster.
Neil doesn't want to marry you.
But if he married you, he'd probably think up some ghastly scheme to do away with his mother-in-law, and I refuse to take any chances.
None of this has anything to do with selling the estate.
Well, this place still belongs to me, and I'm going to dispose of it at the first opportunity. But I am a practical businesswoman. Didn't your father always let me handle all the money?
Yes, and what did we end up with? 400 shares of stock in an invention that was supposed to make a vehicle run off water instead of gasoline.
Well, it was a beautiful idea. The salesman had such a delightful smile. I shall never forget it.
Oh, here you are.
Mr. Emerson, come in.
Good evening, Doris.
Hello, Carl.
Is your room satisfactory?
Why, it's perfect. I'm quite taken up with this place.
I was just telling Doris that the place weren't so large. I could live here the rest of my life, but it's foolish for a woman of my age to keep an estate, don't you think?
Exactly, Mrs. Harwood. But frankly, I wish I owned this house.
What would you want with it, Carl?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably turn it into a summer hotel or something like that. This location is perfect for that sort of thing.
Well, yes, the lake and trees, there's so much sky overhead.
But what would you want with a summer hotel? I thought you were an up-and-coming bond salesman.
I may be a bond salesman, but I'm not so sure about the up-and-coming part.
Oh, you're going to be a marvelous success, Mr. Emerson. And every successful man should have an estate.
Are you serious, Mrs. Harwood? You'd really consider selling this place?
I might. I just might. Dear Uncle Albert, bless his soul, wouldn't want me to carry on here. I'm certain of that.
And I'm not so certain.
What do you mean by that?
She doesn't mean anything, Mr. Emerson. Have you met the other guests?
No, I haven't, but a moment ago from my window I did see a man and a woman walking along the terrace.
Oh, that would be John and Susan Baker. I do want you to know them. Such a charming couple. Well, Susan is the retiring type, but a lovely personality when you really understand her.
Indeed.
Then there's a Mrs. Vicky Wayne.
Vicky Wayne?
Yes, her parents are prominent in society. I'd ask them all down for the weekend. But Mr. and Mrs. Wayne were called out of the city, so their daughter accepted the invitation.
You mean Vicky Wayne is in this house?
Yes, she arrived just before we did. Well, I've never met her, although her mother and I attended several teas together. She seems to be a lovely girl. I know you're going to like her.
Well,
Is something the matter, Mr. Emerson?
no, nothing at all.
Well, we must go see John and Susan. Right this way, Mr. Emerson. We can reach the terrace through the drawing room.
Okay, are you coming, Doris?
No, Doris will join us later.
Miss Doris,
Yes, Ella.
there's someone here to see you. It's a man.
A man.
Yes, he came to the back door. He said I wasn't to say anything till you were alone.
Well, where is he?
He's in the kitchen. He said that he was going to. Oh,
Neil!
he's not in the kitchen. He's here.
Neil.
Do you want to see him, Miss Doris? Well, I guess you do.
Hello, Doris.
Oh, Neil.
Surprised?
I've never been so happy to see anyone in my life.
That was double for me.
Wait, what are you doing here?
You didn't think I could stay away from you always. Los Angeles has become an empty desert since you've left.
Well, when did you come?
I arrived in the city this evening. As soon as I found the address to the Stillwell estate, I grabbed a taxi, and here I am.
So Mother hasn't seen you.
I should say not. I went to the back door and bribed the maid not to say anything until she could give word to you. I left my bags in the kitchen.
Mother's going to be furious, Neil.
I rather expected that,
No, you don't understand. She's entertaining with a party this weekend.
which makes things more complicated, I suppose.
Yes, but I'm glad you're coming. I need you.
Anything the matter?
There's something you must know before Mother finds you here.
Are you in trouble?
I don't know, but you've got to help me.
Of course, darling. You sound like the heroine in one of my detective stories.
It's terribly upsetting and mysterious.
The mysteries are right up my alley.
You know why Mother and I came here, don't you?
Why, yes. Your great Uncle Albert Stillwell died leaving this estate to your mother. She was openly disappointed when she expected a large inheritance and all that remained was this house and grounds. Is that right?
Yes.
So, in an effort to make the best of the situation, she moved here with the intention of finding a buyer for the place. And you packed your bags and left a gloomy and broken-hearted detective story writer alone on the West Coast.
In the past several months, Mother's made a number of contacts, all of which seem to be interested in the mansion.
All of which sounds entirely reasonable.
So she's invited them all out for the weekend, and she even included Mr. Vaughn, real estate agent. One of them must have done it.
Done what?
Sent me this letter. It came by special delivery to me tonight.
Disturbing news?
Listen. Dear Miss Harper, don't sell the old mansion. You will regret it. Take any steps to keep your mother from disposing of the estate. And it's signed, Albert Stillwell.
Albert Stillwell? But he is dead.
Of course.
See here, you don't believe in ghosts, do you?
You know I don't. Why was this written to me and by who?
Say, this is interesting. Someone is trying to frighten you.
Well, what would it matter if we dispose of this estate or not? Unless there's something we don't know.
Have you shown this letter to your mother?
I tried to talk her out of selling, but she refused to even listen to me.
Who are the guests?
There's Carl Emerson, a bond salesman. Mr. and Mrs. Bates, who have entertained Mother and I a number of times, and Miss Vicki Wayne, daughter of a very wealthy business executive.
And they've all shown interest in buying the estate?
Directly and indirectly. Mr. Bates is the only one that's talked to Mother about buying, and Carl Emerson and Vicki Wayne's married for doubtful prospects.
Are Vicki Wayne's parents here?
No, they have other plans this weekend. I'm not sure why she came. Mother and I have never met her before.
Perhaps the Waynes are better prospects than you think.
I don't know what I think, but I'm frightened.
Supposing I did a little investigating this weekend.
Which means you'll stay.
With pleasure. Here, let me have that note.
Mother won't exactly be gracious.
I believe I can handle your charming mother.
You know, I feel better already.
Leave it to me, darling. Perhaps I can uncover a good story this weekend.
Always thinking in terms of your work, aren't you?
Why not? If I'm going to marry the sweetest girl in all the world,
Oh, are you?
in spite of her mother,
I'll tell Ella to bring your bags upstairs, and if Mother walks in,
she and I will have a pleasant little family chat.
Well, good evening.
Oh, hello.
Are you one of Mrs. Harwood's guests?
Yes, and unexpected one, you might add. I'm Neil Parker.
Good to know you, Mr. Parker. Bates is my name, John Bates. This is my wife.
A pleasure, Mrs. Bates.
Thank you. John and I were out of the chairs with Mrs. Harwood and Mr. Emerson. John insisted we come in, and it was so lovely out there in the moonlight.
You must need to clear your throat soon.
Yes, John.
Is your home around here?
No, I live in Los Angeles.
I'm sure Agnes will be overjoyed when she learns you arrived for your visit.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that.
Shall I call her?
Susan, never mind.
First, John.
That's not necessary, Mrs. Bates. I've already spoken with Doris.
Oh, a fine young lady. You know her well.
Quite well.
I suspected as much. I bet she was delighted to see you.
What a lovely little party this is going to be. You haven't met the other guests, Mr. Parker?
No, although I am looking forward to that opportunity. This is an interesting old house, isn't it?
Most interesting. I've had my eye on this place for a long time.
And John always said he hoped to buy it. Why, even when he was the assistant manager of the Avenue Jewelry Shop in the city.
Susan!
Oops, sorry, John.
Susan still insists on discussing the early days. Frankly, I don't care to talk about the lean years.
No, I suppose not.
Mrs. Harwood is desirous of selling this place,
So Doris tells me.
and Susan's always wanted to stay.
John, you're the one who always wanted.
Of course, you have here. I'm hoping that Mrs. Harwood and I can come to a deal shortly, though nothing's settled, of course.
I should think this would be a rather large house for you and Mrs. Bates.
Well, we would have to have a staff of servants. Frankly, I can't imagine how Mrs. Harwood does it. She has one maid, I believe.
Oh, Agnes says she doesn't want to be surrounded by a lot of hired help. She likes to do things herself. I have always done my own work, but...
Susan!
Ooh, I'm sorry, John.
What Susan means is that when we were first married, we had to watch every penny. But that was long ago.
Oh, good evening, Mrs. Harwood.
Neil Parker.
Mr. Parker said you weren't expecting him, Agnes, but I told him he'd be overjoyed.
Yes, of course. Neil, when did you arrive?
Just a few minutes ago, Doris was gracious enough to ask me to stay over the weekend. She insisted you would be delighted.
Of course, you met John and Susan.
We have had a most pleasant little visit.
Oh, perhaps you'd like to join Mr. Emerson. She's viewing the oil paintings in the drawing room.
Ma'am, Miss John and I have already seen them.
Oh, I'm certain we'll want to see them again. You really can't enjoy a picture unless you've seen it hundreds of times.
But I...
Come, Susan.
Miss John, we'll be seeing you later, Mr. Parker.
Undoubtedly, Mrs. Bates.
Well,
I trust this hasn't upset you, Mrs. Harwood,
if you came to see my doctor,
which I did, and which I have.
you know very well I don't approve of you.
You mean you don't approve of my work?
Well, I'd hardly call being a person who writes detective stories an honorable living, supposing that's all any man did in this country.
Then the competition would be quite discouraging.
All you need to know is crime, and then you want to marry my daughter.
Really, Mrs. Harwood, I'm not such a bad sort. You haven't even tried to know me.
I don't want to know. I'd probably wake up some morning and discover I've been murdered in bed.
Now, see here.
Really, Neil, I must ask you to leave at once.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bates. Or Mrs. Harwood, but I'm staying.
Of all the nerve! I'll have you put out! Out!
You wouldn't do that, my dear lady. Not with this house full of guests. Think of all the embarrassing explanations.
You can't do this to me. I'm mistress of this estate.
I don't know about that. Now, come. Shall we be friends? I assure you, Mrs. Harwood, I will be on my best behavior.
Would show up today of all time.
I think it was rather fortunate that I did.
Can imagine why.
Perhaps before the weekend is over, we will all be the wiser.
Couldn't possibly be any wiser than I am this minute.
What a pity.
Why do you think you said that?
Oh, you've seen Neil, Mother.
Yes, I regret to say I'm looking at him this minute.
And your mother was good enough to permit me to stay this weekend. Doris.
Yes, if it weren't for causing an unpleasant scene, I would exert my authority.
The guests will enjoy Neil's company, Mother.
Remember, Neil, I kept you romancing my daughter.
Well,
I'll make a protest to the president.
Mrs. Harwood,
Yes, Ella?
Mr. William Patterson Vaughn has arrived. He asked me to announce him.
Show him in.
This way.
Mr. Vaughn is Mother's real estate.
yes, I'd like to meet him.
Ah, Mrs. Harwood.
It's so good of you to come.
Vaughn Rackham Realty Company is always at your service, madam. And Miss Harwood, so delightful to see you again.
Mr. Vaughn, this is Mr. Parker, another one of Mother's guests.
Mr. Parker, indeed an honor, sir. Indeed an honor. Have you had one of my cards? For a house or farm or cozy nook, deal with Vaughn. He is no crook.
Mr. Vaughn, where are your bags?
I left them in the hallway.
Well, Ella, take Mr. Vaughn's luggage upstairs.
Yes, madam.
Are you looking for a house, Mr. Parker?
And not at present, I regret to say.
Are you married?
Not yet.
But soon will be, I see. I have the perfect place for your little honeymoon cottage with roses and
Oh,
falling
never mind.
Neil, why don't I show you to your room?
An excellent idea.
If you'll excuse me, Mrs. Harwood.
With pleasure.
Is Mr. Parker not one of the prospects then?
Oh, he's nobody, simply nobody.
But the other guests?
Well, they've all arrived.
I will do my best to see this house sold this weekend. Whenever Neil's getting hot, Vaughn is always on the spot.
Well, Mr. Bates is definitely interested in buying, but I don't think he has much cash. Then there's Vicky Wayne. Do you know her?
No, I don't believe I've had the pleasure.
Well, her mother suggested I sell this estate several times. Wayne's are simply rolling in money.
Then I will speak with Mrs. Wayne at once.
You can't. She's not here. But I want you to talk to her daughter.
Well, I'm always delighted to speak with anyone's daughter.
And Mr. Carl Emerson, he's a likely prospect.
Mr. Emerson?
Yes, Carl Emerson, he sells stocks and bonds and things. Imagine why he'd want this place, but no concern of mine. I think you should talk to him first.
Whenever there's a likely sale, Vaughn is always on the trail.
Very good. Oh, Mr. Bates, I'd like you to meet my very good friend, Mr. Vaughn,
Indeed, a pleasure, sir.
and Mrs. Bates.
A rare privilege, madam. Indeed I will. Have a card.
Thank you.
If finest bards are homes you crave, Vaughn will show them. You will rave.
Has Miss Wayne come down yet?
John and I haven't seen her.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'll find out what's keeping her. Goodness, perhaps you can't make her way down the stairs.
So you're a real estate agent, Mr. Vaughn.
The Vaughn Rapid Move Realty Company.
And you're handling this estate?
And who better than William Patterson Vaughn to handle such an important piece of property? Now, if you've seen a Mr. Emerson.
Oh, he is in the drawing room.
Thank you, my lady. Your courteous answer is most appreciated. And now, if you excuse me, I will speak with the man.
I hope Carl Emerson buys this place.
Susan!
I tell you, we're a fool for coming here, John.
Susan!
After all, you have no proof. It's a dangerous gamble. I don't want to get
We're staying, both of us. This is our one big chance, and we're going to make the most of it, even if I have to.
John, that's what frightens me. You would go to any extreme to learn the truth. There is trouble ahead. Oh, I can feel it.
Will you listen to me? This is my little affair, and I'm going to go through with it, and if you try to upset my plans...
John!
And another thing, keep your mouth shut about where I have worked. Is that clear?
Yes, John.
Can I be of service?
Why no, I think not, young lady.
Well, if there's anything you want, let me know. Mrs. Harwood asked me to make sure everyone's coming.
Well, that's most thoughtful, Mrs. Harwood. No, Susan, dear.
Yes, John.
Benny!
Hello, baby.
Benny! You shouldn't have come here.
Why not? Don't I do all of Mrs. Harwood's repair work around this place?
But Benny, this house is full of swell guests. Some of them will likely come in any minute.
Tell them I'm checking out on the heating system.
We won't need a heating system around here. If Mrs. Harwood finds you, she'll burn up.
Mrs. Harwood, that's all I hear from you.
Mrs. Harwood is a fine lady, she is. Didn't she give me this job?
Yeah, that's what I don't like. Listen, Ella, are you gonna marry me?
Now, Benny,
I'll give you one more chance to say yes.
you give yourself one more chance to be refused.
Obstinate female I ever run across and still can't figure out why I'm in love with you.
You're a nice boy, Benny, but
I'm not a boy, I'm a man. I make enough money to support a wife, don't I? I've asked you 113 times to give up this job, then marry me. And what answer do I always get?
you know good and well I want to be a career girl, and I wouldn't give that up to marry the Army and Navy combined.
At times you get me so mad, I feel like punching somebody in the nose.
I have a job I do, and I'm going to keep it. Don't you try to punch me, you big buffalo!
Listen, Ella, this is a dangerous place.
Makes you say that.
Nobody's safe. If you don't get out now, you're gonna be sorry. I'll bet this place is even haunted.
You don't scare me.
I'm warning you, Ella.
Oh, for heaven's sake, now stop it! I was cut out to be a career girl, not a homebody, but you just keep bothering me!
You make me so mad, I can...
Someone's coming!
Wait a minute!
Make it snappy, you big buffalo! I forget it finally!
Right this way, Miss Wayne.
Oh, what a charming room, Mrs. Harwood.
Uncle Albert used it for a study, I believe, so the attorney's told. Do sit down.
Thank you. The mansion is most impressive.
I'm so glad you did come, Miss Wayne. I met your mother several times, but I've never had the pleasure of knowing you.
Mother did regret that she couldn't be here, but she and Father had planned a little trip for the weekend.
Well, I'm glad you could make it, Miss Wayne.
Perhaps it's fortunate for all of us.
You've met the other guests?
Most of them, I think. You introduced me to Mr. and Mrs. Bates.
Oh, yes. Charlie, come.
And Mr. Vaughn.
He's the head of a large real estate company.
He gave me his card.
Such a refreshing personality, don't you think?
Unusual, to say the least. Your daughter introduced me to Mr. Parker.
Oh, he's a friend, a passing friend. You would hardly find him interesting.
Oh, I find all your guests interesting, Mrs. Harwood.
Oh, Mr. Emerson, I'd like you to meet Miss Wayne. Miss Vicky Wayne.
Vicky Wayne? Well,
Delighted, Mr. Emerson.
Have you met before?
no, I don't believe we have.
Oh, of course,
not, but I'm happy to know you.
Are you?
Oh, Miss Wayne, you must come this way. I'm sure you'll be interested in Uncle Albert's collection.
By all means.
Would you care to come with us, Mr. Emerson?
Yes, I do believe I would.
Well, what do you think of our guests?
It's a little early to draw conclusions.
You've met all of them except for Carl Emerson.
A rather odd sort of be thrown together for a weekend.
Do you think one of them wrote me that letter?
It's quite possible. Does anyone else know anybody wants to sell this estate?
I'm not sure. There was an article run in the morning paper, but of course there was no mention of Mother's reason for entertaining.
In the paper, eh? That's interesting.
If only we knew more about these people. They're only merely acquaintances.
I have an idea.
What is it?
Yes, I prove it in my experiment. You'll understand shortly. But remember, you must approve of anything I suggest.
All right.
Oh, Mr. Parker, a wonderful old home, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I intend to inspect it thoroughly before I leave.
Mr. Bates, did Mr. Parker tell you that he writes detective stories?
Why, no, didn't?
Did you come here to find a plot, Mr. Parker?
Not at all. I came to find Doris.
Oh, yes, of course.
Precious.
What time is dinner, Doris?
At 8, I believe.
That is almost an hour. I was just thinking, perhaps we'd have a little time before a game. Game? If we could interest the others.
I'll see if I can find them.
Oh, no. They are in the drawing room.
What sort of a game, Mr. Parker?
Mother, will you bring the guests in here? We're going to play a game.
Nothing particularly strenuous, is it?
More chilling than strenuous.
Chilling? Oh, goodness.
Ella,
Mrs. Parker?
will you bring me a deck of playing cards?
Yes, sir.
Ow! A card game! I am particularly fond of bridge.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bates, but we're not playing bridge.
What's this about a game?
I thought we'd all enjoy a bit of recreation before dinner.
Ah, yes. When life is dull and lame, leave it to Vaughn to play the game.
Is this something you thought of, Neil?
It was my idea, if that is what you mean.
Then I'm certain I shan't like it.
Mother, you don't even know what it is. None of us do.
I think this would be the perfect opportunity to play the game of truth.
What makes you say that, Carl?
Here the cards, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Ella.
I'm terribly sorry, but I don't play bridge. Mr. Parker said it wasn't going to be bridge, Miss Wayne.
No. This is going to be a game called Murder.
Murder.
I might have known it.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
It sounds blood-curdling to me, and exactly the sort of game Neil would suggest. I refuse to be murdered.
Maybe we should let him explain.
Here's the idea. I have 7 cards in my hand. Each of you are to draw one, sight unseen. The person who draws the ace of spades is to be the murderer.
Oh,
Of course, no one will know who has selected that card. We will then turn out all the lights in the house. That will give the murderer a chance to roam at large.
You don't expect the murderer to...
To kill someone? Of course not. But he shall secretly select his victim and slip up behind the unlucky man or woman and run his finger across the victim's throat like this. That constitutes a murder. The victim must then immediately fall to the floor. We will then turn on all the lights, and the detective must question each person in an effort to discover the guilty individual.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy this.
Who knows to be the detective?
Oh, we'll play that part in this first game.
You would. I refuse to play.
Me too. I have a weak heart.
Nonsense, we're all going to play.
Neil, it's not necessary that we play this game.
A shame. If anyone refuses to play, I'll accuse them of having a guilty conscience.
Exactly.
Oh dear. Most games are considered a jolly lark, but who wants to be murdered in the dark?
Doris, you may select the first card.
All right.
Now, one of you has selected the ace of spades. The holder of that card, you understand, is to be the murderer.
Oh, goodness!
He may have all the time he desires to track down his victim. Each of you may move to any part of the house. I'll wait up here in the kitchen until I hear a scream, which will indicate that the murder has been committed. Ella, I want you to turn out all the lights in the house.
What?
Do as Mr. Parker says, Ella.
Oh, yes, Miss Morris.
Doris, turn off the table there.
Mr. Proctor, anybody tried to rule me out?
Then you didn't pick the ace of spades, did you?
Certainly did not. If anyone asks me what I think, I'll tell them.
Never mind, Mother.
Does everyone understand?
Oh yes, we understand. I think I understand a little too well.
Could we play a nice, quiet game of checkers or something?
It's too late now, Miss Bond.
I'll wait up here in the kitchen. Here we go.
Don't touch me there, I'm a lady!
I'm coming!
Somebody turn on the lights.
Not yet. Give the murderer a chance to escape.
Don't anybody touch me. Don't anybody dare touch me.
Is everybody ready? I'm turning on the lights now.
Never gonna play this game again as long as I live. Disgrace to the community. Disgrace to the state. Disgrace to the nation.
Wait, did the scream come from this room?
Yes. Think I know anything about it?
I never did so in my whole life! Where is she?
Mrs. Bates, didn't you hear a scream?
Certainly I did. It was Vicky Wayne. She was in this room, but where is she now?
I don't know.
What a thrilling dream.
Doris, didn't I make it very clear that the victim was to fall at the exact spot the murder took place?
Yes, why?
Vicky Wayne screamed. She was in this room. She has disappeared.
Then she's been murdered.
Oh.
Just what I expected.
Well, Mr. Detective, are you ready to question us?
How can he? There's no body.
What's that?
Miss Wayne was the victim, but she isn't here.
Well, maybe she wasn't murdered in this room.
No, we're certain that the murder took place here in the library.
Where is the body? Where is the body? Miss Wayne. Miss Wayne. Where are you? Answer me, dead or alive, answer me.
Well, maybe she didn't understand the rules of the game.
No,
Mr. Bond, have you seen Miss Wayne?
I haven't seen anybody.
Oh, what if something's happened to her?
Well, everything's happened. And it's all your fault, Neil Carter. You and your game.
just a minute. Is everyone here with the exception of Miss Wayne?
Yes.
Then who drew the ace of spades?
I did.
All right. What did you do with Vicky Wayne? Where is she?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I was hiding in the hall closet. I have a weak heart.
You mean you didn't commit a murder?
No! I was in the hall closet. I was hiding from myself. I heard a scream. I put my head under somebody's raincoat, trying to get as far from me as possible.
This is most serious. I was upstairs and I distinctly heard Miss Wayne.
more than I can stand. A quiet, peaceful, loving woman.
She's played a joke on us.
I'm not so certain about that. We better investigate. Bates, you look around upstairs. Emerson, you look around down here, sort of thing. I'm headed to the basement. How do I get there, Doris?
I'll show you.
Doris, don't you leave this room. There's a murderer at large.
Mrs. Harwood?
Have you seen Miss Wayne?
I can't make it out, ma'am. A young lady just arrived today who said that she is Vicky Wayne.
What?
Just
Wayne?
alive.
Which is Mrs. Harwood?
I am.
Mrs. Harwood, I'm Vicky Wayne. I know I'm terribly late.
You can't be Vicky Wayne.
What do you mean?
But she is Vicky Wayne.
Carl,
Well, Vicky.
you're the last person I expected to find here.
Am I?
What about the other Miss Wayne?
Emerson, are you speaking the truth? Is this woman Vicky Wayne?
Yes.
Well, of course I am. What makes you think I'm not?
Miss Wayne, someone is impersonating you. She arrived here this evening and she claimed she was Vicky Wayne.
Oh, and she disappeared. Like so subtle. Oh, thin air.
Well, I can't understand it.
Emerson, if you were acquainted with Miss Wayne, then you knew the other girl was an imposter. Well, what about it?
Well, I thought that something might be up, so I kept my mouth shut.
But why should anyone impersonate me?
And now she's been murdered.
What?
Her?
Mother, be quiet.
Miss Wayne, had you expected to stay this weekend?
Oh, no, that is not at first, but then something made me change my mind at the last moment.
I see. Evidently, this other girl, whoever she may be, thought you weren't coming and attempted to take your place.
But this is terrifying.
Then she must have known that neither Mother nor I had ever met you.
But what does it all mean?
That's just what I'm going to find out.
Oh!
Right, no one was gonna switch!
Don't tell this mansion and Miss Harwood. I'm watching you. Yes, Albert Stillwell is watching you.
Where did that voice come from?
Look! Oh, Mrs. Harwood! Oh! She's
Fainted.
Neil,
Oh, I didn't hear you. Come in.
where are the others?
Most of the guests went to the room shortly after dinner.
And what a dinner it was, very atmosphere to charge with suspense, and I've never been so uncomfortable in my life.
Yes, it was a bit suspenseful, wasn't it?
Why did you insist that we go through dinner as if nothing had happened?
I wanted to study the reactions of the guests.
I believe that's why you suggested we play murder.
Yes, I had the idea that whoever sent you that note would attempt to warn you again in the darkness.
Well, then your little game was a brilliant success.
I admit, it didn't turn out quite the way I had anticipated.
I should hope not. Any trace of that girl?
Vicky Wayne's imposter? No, I searched the house, but it's a large place, you know.
Do you think she's still here?
It's quite possible.
With that voice in the dark.
Yes, can't quite make that one out. There's something behind all this, Doris. You and your mother have stirred up a disagreeable situation. I'm grateful that I'm here with you, though.
So am I.
How is your mother?
Completely unnerved. She refuses to even leave her room.
Perhaps it's just as well. She doesn't actually believe that was old Stillwell's voice, does she?
I don't know what she believes, but she's frightened. Terribly frightened.
Just what do you know about your great Uncle Albert?
Not much. When Mother was young, she and Albert had a quarrel.
What was the trouble?
I'm not certain. When Mother was a kid, her parents died, so Albert took her in to raise her. He thought the world of her.
And after the quarrel,
Mother moved to the West Coast. It was there she met my father.
did she ever see her uncle alive again?
No, she didn't even hear from him again. That's why that voice scared her so much.
So in other words, your mother knew nothing of Albert's affairs in later years.
Nothing.
Then it's quite possible. Come in.
Neil, be careful.
Well, there's no one here. Well, look at this.
What is it?
A note. That's one left from our visitor.
What does it say?
Must talk with you alone. 10:30 in the library. And it's signed Helen Freeland.
Helen Freeland, who's she?
I haven't the slightest idea unless... Yes, that's it.
What?
Helen Freeland must be our friend who disappeared tonight.
Vicky Wayne's imposter, but how do you know?
I don't, of course, but it's quite likely.
Then she's still here.
Yes. Does that mean anything to you, Doris?
Helen Freeland. No.
But perhaps we're getting to the bottom of this anyway.
How long do you have?
Before my appointment? About 25 minutes. But I have several matters I'd like to investigate before then.
What was that?
Oh, dude. Get on in there.
Mr. Vaughn?
Well, Vaughn, attempting to leave our pleasant little party tonight?
I can't stay. I have a weak heart.
Mr. Vaughn was attempting to slip out the rear entrance.
Did you go down the back stairs?
I did. I didn't want to disturb anybody.
And he almost succeeded until he knocked over that vase.
I'm not strong, Mr. Parker. I'm a nervous man.
Put down that bag.
Oh. Yes, Mr. Parker.
Where is Ella?
Ella? I don't know. Upstairs, I presume.
Why did you write me that note?
What note?
The note. You slipped under the door.
I didn't slip any note in there, any door. I didn't write any note. You gotta believe me, Mr. Parker. I'm just a poor real estate agent. I'll give you my card.
Never mind. Listen, Vaughn. Are you certain you didn't write me that note?
I'm not certain, Mr. Parker. You gotta believe me.
I believe you. Did you see anyone as you attempted to leave?
No.
Did you hear anything?
No. Wait. Yes. The hallway was dark, and a door closing, like somebody slipping out the door.
Do you think he's telling the truth?
Yes, he's too frightened to lie.
Is that mean I can leave?
You know what's leaving here tonight.
But Mr. Parker.
You heard me, Vaughn.
I don't want to sell this house anymore. Besides, who would buy a house that was haunted?
You're going to your room tonight. Miss Harwood and I will escort you.
Mr. Parker,
Get moving. This way, Vaughn.
I'll never live through the night.
What do you think of that, Susan dear?
But I'm certain Mr. Vaughn is innocent.
Vaughn, of course. I'm not talking about him. I'm thinking of that note that young Parker received.
You should have been listening, John.
That's why I'm here.
John, can't we leave?
No. You heard the name Helen Freeland. And Helen Freeland, I have that name, seems vaguely familiar, and I can't quite remember.
I'm really frightened. I want to get out of here.
Undoubtedly someone knows, or suspects what we know. We've got to work fast.
I don't like this sort of thing. I never have.
You will when I'm successful.
I hate this sort of thing. Can't you have a job like any other man, any job?
But I have a job now.
Do you think a grown husband would sneak into a house and...
What have I done that's not
entirely respectable.
Necessary, you'll just much.
Susan.
Oh, I've put everyone in gone to bed.
Ah, Miss Wayne.
It's a frightful situation, isn't it?
Yes, I don't want to stay here anymore.
Susan.
Neither do I. But I can't leave until I know more about that other girl.
Who would want to impersonate me this way?
Oh, I can't imagine. I suppose it's silly, but oh, I'm afraid.
I'm sure it's nothing to be alarmed about. Doubtless some young woman decided to spend a pleasant weekend in your place.
But how did she discover that I hadn't planned to accept this invitation? And how did she know that I had never met Mrs. Harwood and her daughter?
Ooh, it is strange.
And now she's disappeared. Oh, if only I could see her just once.
By the way, how about a nice game of bridge, Miss Wayne? I'm sure that nobody wants to be sleeping.
No, thank you.
Mr. Emerson said that he would play if we could find a board.
Carl, Mr. Emerson said that?
We'll be down shortly.
Oh, yes, I believe I would enjoy a game of bridge.
Oh, so would I! And that just might take monitoring of everything that's happened tonight, or might happen.
Exactly.
We can play in the drawing room. I saw a table in there.
Very well.
John tends to criticize my dating this way, but he really doesn't mean that this success.
Of course not, Susan dear. I find you to be the sweetest, most understanding wife that a man could ever desire.
You again?
Oh, hello.
What are you doing here this time of night?
Nothing? Nothing at all?
Did you come in the back entrance?
I guess so.
I told you to stay out of this part of the house, and besides, this is not the time to be calling on a girl.
What makes you think I'm calling on you?
All you've been doing since I came here to work.
You seem to forget I work here too.
Not at night, you don't. Mrs. Harwood wasn't sick. I told you.
Mrs. Harwood, sick?
Yes.
What's the matter with the old lady?
Benny. Oh. Ah! Well, some strange things have been happening around here. I don't like it.
I told you this was a dangerous place. Didn't
A young lady arrived today and said she was Vicky Wayne, but she wasn't.
What do you mean?
Mrs. Harwood's guests played a game called Murder. And they turned out all the lights and then this girl disappeared and it wasn't 5 minutes later before the real Vicky Wayne showed up.
That's funny.
It isn't funny if you ask me. That's not all. The lights went out again, but no one was near the switch. And then when the lights were dark, a voice told Mrs. Harwood not to sell this mansion.
A voice!
Yes, a man's voice. He said it was Albert Stillwell.
I'm not surprised. I warned you about working here on the house.
Just gets on my nerves just thinking about it.
Well, are you ready to get out of here? Marry me?
No, I'm not. I was cut out to be a career girl, and I'm going to stick to that.
And you're murdered by a ghost, I suppose.
Benny, I don't believe in ghosts.
You're a fine one. I don't know why you can try to protect you.
I don't need protecting.
No? Listen, Ella. You'd be running to me to save you before this thing is over.
I wouldn't run to you if you were the last man on earth.
You made me so mad.
Oh, isn't that a shame?
At times, I don't know why I want to marry you.
Because I'm a lady and a lady never looked at you twice before.
Is that so? Listen to me, Ella Tucker. I know a thing or two.
You're sure keeping it well.
You made me so mad.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Mr. Parker, this is Mr. King.
Hello. You're not one of Mrs. Harwood's guests, are you?
No,
He's a friend of mine, or he was. But he was just leaving. Come on.
well, glad I met you. Maybe I'll be seeing you again.
Good evening.
Oh, Miss Wayne, I didn't know you were still down here.
Mr. and Mrs. Bates wanted me to play bridge with them, but I've changed my mind.
It is rather late, isn't it?
Yes. Good night.
But not too late to have a little talk, is it?
Talk.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a few questions. I'm certain you won't mind.
What questions?
Miss Wayne, why are you here?
What do you mean?
You're not interested in buying this estate, are you?
No. But I refuse to tell you anything else.
Just one more question. Nothing personal, I assure you.
Yes.
Did you know anyone by the name of Helen Freeland?
Helen Freeland. What about her?
Is she a friend of yours?
She's my father's secretary.
Indeed.
Why do you ask? Do you know something about her? Mr. Parker?
Yes, I do know something about her.
What are you trying to tell me?
I'm not trying to tell you anything at the moment.
But I have a right to know. You see, she's my father's secretary.
Yes, so
Here you are, Miss Lane.
Mr. Parker, good. Now we can have that bridge key.
I don't care to play.
But you said the board was
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bates. I'll see you in the morning, Mr. Parker. We didn't finish our conversation, you know. Good night.
Well, Miss Wayne seemed quite perturbed.
good. I did so want that game.
After all, it is rather late.
Yes, it's time we were all in bed.
Exactly.
Any trace of that young woman that disappeared?
Why, no.
Have you discovered who that voice was, Mr. Parker?
Frankly, no.
That sure upset poor Mrs. Harwood.
Well, it upset us all.
Yes, yes, it did.
Doris did say her mother was feeling better, although she hasn't come out of her room.
It's time we got upstairs, Susan. Are you coming, Mr. Parker?
Not just yet.
It's getting rather late.
Agnes,
It's
dear.
good to see you up again.
It's good to be up.
Do you want to play a game of bridge?
Certainly not.
I don't blame you, my dear lady. Come, Susan.
Good night, Agnes.
Good night.
Mrs. Harwood, you shouldn't be down here.
Are you trying to get rid of me?
Certainly not.
Yes,
But I
you
have-
are. You thought you could frighten me to death. For your information, I faked easier than I died.
Mrs. Harwood.
It was you that suggested that game of murder for my benefit, didn't you? You tried to make me think that was Uncle Albert speaking in the dark. That wasn't Uncle Albert's voice.
No.
No, and I don't believe in ghosts. So you might as well pack your little bag of tricks and get out.
Mrs. Harwood, you don't understand.
I understand that you're in love with my daughter. And you'd be delighted to get rid of me, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't, I assure you. But I'm beginning to think that someone else has that in mind.
What?
I'm not at all certain that you're safe in this house.
I was safe until you came, Neil Parker. I don't know why my daughter had to pick a man to write detective stories when the world is full of quiet farmers and merchants and clerks and farmers. Doris has to pick a man who murders for a living.
Mrs. Harwood, I'm not as bad as all that.
Yes, you are. I read one of your stories once.
Really?
Yes. Only one, mind you. And the next day I was positively ill. Doris tried to blame it on that crab meat fell the night through my head the night before, but I knew better. Why should a little crab meat fight him up that me? It was that story of yours. All about screams and the dark people getting kidnapped every other page.
Mrs. Harwood, sit down.
What?
I said, sit down.
Don't tell me what to do.
Sit down. That's better.
And what makes you think you can dictate to me?
At present, I'm taking charge around here.
Well, a fine way for a guest to talk, and an unwelcome guest at that.
Mrs. Harwood, I wish I could make you understand the seriousness of your situation.
Are you trying to frighten me? I may be a weak, defenseless woman, but I still have my power of speech.
Yes, Mrs. Harwood, you do. And I want you to keep it. That is why I must ask you a question.
The answer is no. I refuse to accept you as a son-in-law.
Mrs. Harwood,
Rather, Doris marry the police force.
this has nothing to do with Doris and me.
Well,
Why did you and Albert quarrel?
work. How did you know that?
Doris told me.
She would. Well, did she tell you I had measles at age 6 and I've been arrested twice for exceeding the speed limit?
I don't see how that information is important at the moment.
Well, I don't see what my quarrel with Uncle Albert has to do with its importance.
Someone did attempt to impersonate him tonight, didn't they?
You honestly mean to tell me that wasn't your voice?
On my word of honor, it wasn't. That is why it's important that I have all the information possible.
I don't see what my quarrel with Uncle Albert has to do with it.
He was always good to you?
Yes. He took me in to raise and treated me like his own daughter. But then he attempted to plan my future, and that's when I rebelled. Even as a child, I resented people telling me what to do.
Undoubtedly, Mrs. Harwood.
Uncle Albert decided I should be a school teacher. Can you imagine that?
Frankly, no.
No, he insisted I teach English. That's positively silly. Everybody knows English anyway. Not only that, he wanted me to read Dickens.
Indeed.
Yes. He bought me that complete set of Dickens works.
These?
Yes.
And did you read them?
I should say not. I told Uncle Albert I wasn't cut out to be a bookworm. Oh, we had some bitter words. He didn't seem to realize I'm a butterfly type.
No, I don't suppose he did.
No, so I packed my bags and flitted out to the West Coast where I didn't have to read anything. So Uncle Albert really never quite got over it.
Did you ever see him again?
No. I wrote him I captured a husband and he didn't even answer. Why am I telling you all this?
I'm glad you did.
I made up my mind I wouldn't speak to you. Once I get started, I can't stop.
Yes, I know.
But what should that world in the dark have anything to do with Uncle Albert?
I'm not certain it does, of course, but perhaps we'll know before the night is over.
Why do you say that?
Supposing you go to your room now, Mrs. Harwood.
I'm not at all sleepy.
You've had something of a shock. You need plenty of rest.
I don't feel like resting.
You will when you reach your room.
Don't think you're going to drug me, young man.
Of course not, Mrs. Harwood, but we must consider your safety.
Well, that's just what I am considering. And frankly, I'd feel more comfortable if you were in China and I were on a desert island.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's you.
Interested in old books?
No, but someone around here seems to be.
I don't understand.
Neither do I. I found several books on the floor.
So you've been out of the room?
Yes.
Where were you?
It's your mother?
You mean she asked to see you?
Not exactly. However, we did have an interesting little talk here at the library.
Mother, downstairs.
And I just returned from taking her to her room.
What did she say?
Nothing that throws any light on the present situation. At least not for the moment.
Well, I can imagine it was an unpleasant interview.
Not entirely. However, she does think I'm responsible for that voice. She does think I'm planning to do away with her.
She was always certain that she would.
What are you doing here?
It's 10:30. I'm waiting for Helen Freeland.
Yes, but darling, she wanted to see me alone.
I'm not. Well, she's going to talk to the both of us. It might be tricky.
Which is all the more reason you should stay out of it.
You're not staying here alone.
What loyalty? The sweetest girl in all the world insists on protecting the man she loves.
This is no time for joking.
I realize that. Perhaps even better than you. And I'd rather you let me handle this by myself.
You don't know anything about this girl. Supposing she's a criminal.
She isn't. I assure you.
What makes you so certain?
I spoke with Miss Wayne.
What does Miss Wayne have to do with it?
My dear young lady. Perhaps before this is straightened up, we'll discover that several people are involved.
Neil Parker, you know more than you've told me.
I only suspect more. That's all, darling.
Miss Freeland?
Yes, Helen Freeland.
Come in.
I'm expected to speak with you alone, Mr. Parker.
I'm sorry, but I insisted on staying.
Perhaps it's better this way.
Will you sit down?
No.
So, you wrote me this note.
Yes.
You have a lot of explaining to do, Miss Freeland. Where have you been since we played that game?
Well, I've been hiding here in the house.
It must have been a shock to you when the real Miss Wayne arrived.
Yes, I hadn't expected that.
But you disappeared before she showed up.
Well, that was due to a mistake.
Mistake?
And the added fact that Carl Emerson knew I wasn't Vicky Wayne, but that's not what I came to tell you.
You came to tell us that you are the secretary to Vicky Wayne's father.
How do you know?
I asked Miss Wayne.
Did you tell her I was here?
No.
Oh. One day last week, Miss Wayne came into her father's office and said she'd been invited here, but expected to decline the invitation. She said she'd never met you or your mother, Miss Harwood.
So you decided to come in her place.
Oh, yes, but I didn't plan on Carl Emerson being here.
He is a friend of yours?
Not exactly. I was relieved when you suggested this game of murder.
So you could make your escape.
No. That was the last thing I wanted to do.
But that doesn't make any sense.
Doris, let Miss Freeland explain.
When the lights went, someone seized me.
Who?
I promise not to tell. It was an error, but a fortunate one for me.
Miss Freeland, why are you here?
Oh, to keep your mother from selling this estate, as I explained to you in my letter.
You mean the one that came by special delivery to me tonight?
So you wrote that.
But why did you sign Albert Stillwell's name to it?
I'm looking after the late Mr. Stillwell's interests, as I promised I would.
What's that?
For 6 years, until the day of Albert Stillwell's death, I was his private secretary.
What?
Miss Freeland.
He was a remarkable man, Miss Harwood. It's a pity you couldn't have known him. He treated me like a member of his own family. Why, a month before he died, even then he knew the end was near. He gave me a remarkably fine time.
Timing, but Albert didn't have any money after this estate was settled, only the house was left.
And he wanted your mother to keep it, Miss Harwood. He said to me, I have but one request to make of you. If my niece attempts to sell this mansion, be sure she is first made a discovery.
A discovery of I don't understand.
Neither do I. But I promised to look after this place. Albert was so good to me. It was the least I could do.
I see.
So when Miss Wayne said your mother was anxious to sell the estate, I knew I must contact you. So I wrote that letter, and I signed Albert Stillwell's name to it. And when Miss Wayne declined the invitation, I came in her place.
I think I'm beginning to understand.
I also learned from Miss Wayne that your mother was easily upset. That's why I didn't speak with her.
Are you certain that Albert told you nothing else?
Nothing! That's why it all sounds so fantastic.
Where have you been since you disappeared?
I shan't explain that now.
Then you're not telling us everything.
I'm telling you everything which concerns you and your mother.
After you disappeared, a voice, a man's voice, warned Mother about selling this estate. Did you know about that?
I refuse to answer.
Then I refuse to accept anything that you've said.
Oh, Miss Harwood, you must believe me. I was Albert's secretary, and I promised him I'd keep your mother from selling this place.
You said someone seized you in the dark. I demand to know who it was and where you've been.
Oh, very well. I suppose I'll have to tell you.
The lights!
Doris, where are you?
I'm over here! Miss Freeland, are you alright?
Miss Freeland! Miss Freeland!
This is Albert Stillwell.
Carolyn Freeland.
It is Carl Emerson.
Neil Booth. People guy from Candlesticks.
I can't sleep. I can't. Oh, is that blood? Is that? Oh, drop for blood. I can't Keep your grip on yourself, Mr. Bond. Sell the home. You could go home. Sell the home. You could go home. Okay. Make sure the library is filled with
Prospective buyers.
What would you say? What would you say?
I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be having a brief 10-minute intermission. Feel free to explore the northern wing of the mansion. The first door on your right is the ladies' bathroom, and the second door is the men's bathroom. If you continue on in a counterclockwise direction, you'll come to the kitchen where drinks and snacks will be available on request for a small fee. If you'd like to place a bid on the home or fill out the questionnaire in your program, please do so and put it in this little box here. We'll get it taken care of. Now, please remember to keep your progress in a counterclockwise direction so we don't have any accidents. Accidents? I got you back! I got you back! Oh, it's you!
What did you think it was, the Spirit of 76? Don't talk to me about spirits! Where are you going? I'm getting out of here! Not even a mansion's big enough for me and a pack of ghosts! So you think this mansion is haunted? I don't know. Voices in the dark, lights going out, strange disappearances. Do you really think that voice was Albert Stillwell's? I don't know. But it warned Mrs. Harwood not to sell this place. And I've never been one to argue with voices in the dark.
You spoke again last night after everyone was asleep.
I know. It said, "There's Sir Albert Stillwell."
And then I blacked out.
Rather strange noises down here, too.
What happened?
You don't think I came down to investigate, do you?
Oh, sometimes I wish I'd never met Mrs. Harwood.
I don't mind being a real estate agent of houses or lots or cozy little cottages. I'd come here to be an agent for a convention of spooks.
Oh, Benny tried to warn me about this place, but I wouldn't listen to him.
Who's Benny?
He's my boyfriend. He wants me to give him my career and marry him.
Oh, are you going to?
I'm going to give him my career.
Does that mean you're leaving too?
I'm not going to wait around and be murdered. The only thing important in this world is my job. Well, lose a job when you're dead.
I have a weak heart, and it's getting weaker by the hour.
Maybe we can be together. My bag is in the kitchen.
Do you think they'll try to stop us?
I don't know. But I'm not going to tell. Are they sleeping?
I think so.
Oh, we better get moving.
Oh, we can still move.
Oh, hey, Mr. Bond.
Ella? Mr. Bond?
Hello, Mrs. Harwood.
And where do you two think you're going?
We were just going out for a fresh air.
Yes, a long breath, while we can still breathe.
Now, you're not going anywhere. You're trying to escape.
But Mrs. Harwood, this place is haunted.
Vaughn is good, and Vaughn is brave, but
Spooks ain't good men to the grave.
You're not to step off this place, Mr. Bond.
But Mrs. Harwood.
You're not to go anywhere until I call the police.
Who are you gonna call?
The police. Put down that bag, Mr. Bond.
But I don't want to
down both. I'm taking charge around here, and it's about time. This is my place, isn't it?
And I wouldn't have it as a gift. Vaughn, Rep Move Realty Company refuses to do a ghost.
Well, I've been pushed around and ignored like last year's dress in a bargain basement, and I've had enough of it. Everybody knows more than I do, and I won't stand for it another minute.
Mrs. Harwood, I don't know anything.
I know even less. We'll let the police decide that, and I'm going to enjoy watching them arrest the guilty party.
But you can't arrest a ghost. It isn't legal.
Neil Parker is no ghost.
Mr. Parker?
Guilty as a cat, perched on the edge of an empty fishbowl. He may not be the only one.
But he's a nice man. He writes detective stories.
Well, then he can write them behind bars.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Miss Wayne. You're up early.
Yes. I'm sorry, but I must leave at once.
What gave you that idea?
I just remembered I have an appointment in the city this morning.
Well, then you can consider your appointment broken. No one is leaving until I call the police.
But Mrs. Harwood.
I'm going to have these strange goings-on investigated, and I want everybody here.
Well, I can't blame you, of
Well,
course.
if anyone attempts to leave, I'll demand their arrest for trespassing.
Oh, very well. I suppose I'll have to stay.
You certainly will. Prepare breakfast for us at once. When everyone's downstairs, I'll notify the authorities.
Yes, Mrs. Harwood. Come on, Mr. Vaughn. We might as well wait in the drawing room.
I'd rather wait at home. I always was a homebody.
You're not to step off this place, Mr. Vaughn.
My courage is low. My heart is torn. I ask myself, why was I born?
That's just what I was beginning to wonder, Mr. Vaughn.
Oh, Mother, I've been looking for you.
I've been here for days.
Are the others down?
Some of them are down, and they'd like to be out. You're responsible for this, Doris Harwood.
What makes you say that?
Well, if you weren't in love with Neil Parker, he wouldn't be here. And if he weren't here, all would be quiet, peaceful.
You don't honestly think Neil is the reason for all of this, do you?
I certainly do. And when the police arrive, they'll prove it.
You haven't notified the police?
Not yet, but as soon as he arrives, I'm going to.
You can't.
This is my estate, isn't it?
Yes?
And tell Neil I want to see him at once.
Neil isn't here.
What?
He left early this morning.
So that proves beyond a doubt that he is guilty. I knew it from the first. Tried to frighten me to death to see his one ambition in life was to marry you. And then get rid of his mother-in-law.
Mother.
Oh. What's the matter with you?
Good morning. Good morning, Doris.
Hello, Carl.
Are you in?
Slightly.
You were all right last night.
Was I? I don't seem to remember much.
Ah, Doris, what are you talking about? Has something else happened? Mr. Emerson, I demand you tell me what's going on around here.
Why don't you ask your daughter? She seemed to be more informed than I am.
That settles it. Everybody knows more than I do. I'm calling the police.
No, you're not, Mrs. Harwood.
Hello, Neil.
Well, look who showed up. Animated torture chamber.
Hello, Emerson. Glad to see you're up.
Yes, a miracle that I'm alive.
Where have you been, Neil Parker?
Supposing we say I've been out admiring your garden.
I haven't a garden. What about Mr. Emerson? You trying to murder him too?
No, I wasn't.
Well, I give up. Nobody pays the slightest attention to me. I might as well be one of the babes in the wood.
Well, Carl,
Were you the one that hit me last night?
I was, but evidently not hard enough.
Just a minute, Doris.
Where's Helen Freeland?
I don't know anything about her.
I'll like the story. The lights went out. Someone seized her, and we found you in the room.
Found me? You all but murdered me.
Doris and I carried you to your room. And quite a task it was, Emerson. I patched up your head, I put you to bed, and I hoped for the best. Say, I'm beginning to talk my Mr. Vaughn.
No wonder someone didn't hear us.
When I awakened this morning, I couldn't figure out what had happened. But then I began to remember.
I was terribly worried about you, Carl. I've never been a man before with a candlestick.
I'm glad that I didn't make you angry in a brickyard.
I'm still angry. What were you doing down here?
What were you doing down here?
Now hold everything.
You'd better explain, Carl Emerson.
See here, Doris.
What would you say if I told you someone else was in this room at the same time?
I wouldn't believe you. Have you found any trace of Helen Freeland?
No. And that's the only thing that disturbs me. If we could find her.
Why don't you ask Carl?
He doesn't know anything about her, Doris.
At least somebody believes me.
Carl, what happened to you? Oh, darling!
I'm quite
Oh,
all right,
but
Vicky.
you hurt you.
Oh, Vicky, honey.
Oh, Carl.
Oh, darling, don't cry.
Will someone kindly explain?
An excellent idea.
I guess we do have some explaining to do, Vicky.
I was certain that you two were in love and that you had a quarrel.
Well, how did you know?
Your actions were more revealing than words.
Vicky and I met a while ago while we were in college. It was love at first sight, I guess. I didn't have much money, and Vicky made me believe that she too was a poor, struggling student.
Oh, I was afraid to tell you the truth, Carl. I thought I might lose you.
I had dreams of one day owning a summer hotel. I know that sounds like a funny ambition, but Vicky seemed to like the idea. At least she made me think she did.
Oh, I was truthful about that, Carl.
Anyway, I found out that she was the daughter of wealthy parents. So, I figured she'd been playing me for the fool, listening to my crazy dreams, and then laughing behind my back.
No, Carl, I didn't laugh.
Anyway, I walked out on her. I knew that if I was ever to make her respect me at all, I'd have to do something more than just run a summer hotel. So, I came to the city, I got a job selling stocks and bonds.
And you didn't even let me know you were living here.
I wanted to be a big business success before I ever saw you again. It's taken longer than I expected, but when I met Mrs. Harwood, I did everything I could to gain her confidence, hoping that someday she'd invest some of her money with me in those stocks and bonds I was peddling. That's why I accepted her weekend invitation.
Carl, Mother hasn't any money. Albert left her nothing but this estate.
I began to suspect the truth last night. You see, you two aren't exactly living like millionaires, you know.
And what about you, Miss Wayne?
Well, there isn't much more to say, except, oh, I was terribly crushed when Carl left me. I didn't even know where he had gone. I had expected to refuse Mrs. Harwood's invitation until I picked up the paper yesterday morning. In the chit-chat column, I read that Carl Emerson was going to be here too. I had to see him, so I changed my plans at the last moment. Oh, Carl, don't you realize I've always loved you?
I couldn't be certain. How could a wealthy girl ever love a punk like me that dreamed of owning a summer hotel? Stocks and bonds seems like...
Stocks and bonds, what do I care about such things?
Can you honestly like my goofy plans?
I love them. And you're going to chuck this job of yours first thing Monday morning.
Oh, Vicky.
We're going into the summer hotel business, you and I.
But what about your parents?
Oh, are you marrying my parents or me?
I still haven't much money.
Then we'll start with a 3-room shack. We'll live in one room and rent out the others.
Oh, Vicky, you are a darling.
And that seems to be that.
I hate to interrupt this little reunion, but I'd still like to know what you were doing down here.
You mean when you tried to murder me?
Miss Harwood, did you strike Carl?
I did in the library with candles. But I thought he was kidnapping Helen Freeland.
Helen Freeland?
Helen Freeland was the girl who impersonated you, Miss Wayne.
She's my father's secretary.
So you told me.
Oh, of course. I told her the day before yesterday I wasn't coming out here. The little cat. What does she mean by impersonating me?
Miss Freeland had an excellent reason for coming out here. You must have pulled it against her.
She was in the room last night with Doris and Mr. Parker. I was in the hallway. The lights went out. Somebody seized Miss Freeland. And Doris thought I was guilty.
What were you doing, Carl?
I had a hunch about something.
Supposing you tell us, Emerson.
All right. It had to do with the voice. I got to thinking about it and I snuck down here last night.
Good morning.
We're not late for breakfast, Harvey.
No, Mrs. Bates.
Any trace of that young woman that poses Miss Wayne? No. Strange how she disappeared when we were playing that game last night.
Well, and then
What's that, Miss Harper?
nothing.
Doubtless she ran away when she discovered that the real Miss Wayne had arrived.
And you don't think she'll show up again, do you?
I rather doubt it.
I heard that voice again after I'd gone to bed.
Yes, I can't understand that.
Hasn't anyone discovered what it is?
Not yet.
This has put such a strain on poor Agnes.
How is your mother this morning?
Much better, thank you.
And as lively as ever, I might add.
I am glad to hear that. What a frightful weekend this has been. Oh, I'm sorry, Doris. I didn't mean to say anything about your
It's all right, I understand, Mrs. Bates.
I think it's been a wonderful weekend.
So do I.
I can't imagine why anyone would say that!
You may feel that way, Mrs. Bates, but for Vicky and me, it's different.
Well, is there something that we don't know about?
I think you might be amazed at what I do know, Mr. Bates.
Interesting.
What's the matter with your head, Mr. Emerson?
Just a slight accident.
It wasn't something he ate.
I'm quite all right.
He could have been killed.
Vicky, honey.
Oh, do give us the details, Mr. Emerson.
Yes, by all means.
I believe that someone else could give him much more power. Did it, I can't be denied.
Oh, Mr. Vaughn, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, that's not.
I'm worried I'll never sleep again. I want to go home.
Oh, Mr. Vaughn, that's the way to talk.
Don't you want to go home too?
No, I'm most anxious to stay.
John says nothing to make him leave now. But I
Susan!
Some men do distant countries roam, but Vaughn would rather stay at home.
You'll be all right, Mr. Vaughn.
But your mom threatened to call the police and
The police?
She won't do that. Unless it's necessary.
Unless it is necessary.
She says she wants to get to the bottom of all this, but I just want to get out of here.
I don't see any reason to call in the police.
I think I'm just gonna go upstairs and have a little chat with Agnes. She shouldn't be left alone like this.
I'll wait till you
Mother isn't upstairs.
No?
No.
She hasn't disappeared too, has she, like that Helen Freeland?
How did you know that was her name? I saw her again last night, after we had played that game of murder.
But why doesn't anybody explain these things?
But she disappeared again. The second time against her will.
Well, this is most distressing. Why didn't you tell us this before, Mr. Parker?
Was that necessary, Mr. Bates? Someone in this house knows where she is.
It's all right, Mr. Parker. I'm safe.
That's Helen Freeland.
Yes!
Oh, where is she?
My hunch was correct.
Breakfast is ready.
Miss Freeland! Where are you? Miss Freeland!
I think I know.
Phil, what's the matter with you?
Be quiet!
I won't be quiet.
I want to go home.
Give me a chair.
What are you doing?
That was her breakfast. I'm certain of it.
Horace, what's going on around here?
Mother, be quiet.
I want to go home.
Carl, I don't understand.
He's lost his mind. So do I.
Catching around here. Germans and chairs are made to sit on.
Emerson, do you think
I'm certain of it.
Is this another game?
I don't want to play that game. I want to go home.
check behind the painting?
Of course! That's it! Aha! Here it
An
is!
opening in the wall.
It's a stovepipe hole in the chimney.
That's where the voices came from.
Somebody's been talking up the chimney.
Exactly, from the basement.
Emerson, you're a smart man.
Why didn't anybody discover this before? I have a weak heart. I can't handle these kind of shots.
I got to thinking last night that there might be an opening in the wall somewhere down here. That's why I slipped down here and started looking behind the bookcase. And then I heard a noise in the other room.
But we must find Helen Freeland.
Yes, before she escapes.
She won't escape.
How do you know?
Neil!
What is it?
Mr. and Mrs. Bates, they're not here.
Oh, I still wish I wasn't.
It's nothing. Let them go.
They were in this room a few moments ago.
Did you see them leave?
No, I was watching Carl.
We all were, but Neil, supposing they get away.
Wait a minute, everybody talk slower. I can't follow you. Hey, what are you doing up here? You knew very well I have company.
I told Betty time and again to stay in the basement, ma'am.
The basement?
Mr. King works for me. Oh, dear, this is embarrassing.
So you were the one, Mr. King.
Yep. The voice.
Betty, you mean to tell me that voice was yours?
I was talking from the basement. I discovered that old chimney when I was repairing the house last week. It hasn't been used for years. It isn't even connected to the heating system now. I could yell into it through an opening downstairs, and you could hear my voice. As plain as anything!
I'll say we could.
Oh, Mr. King, what a disgusting trick to play. I'm going to fire you.
Oh, Betty, why did you do it?
Why? I planned to scare you, Ella.
Scare me?
I wanted you to think this house was haunted. Then I figured you'd be willing to chuck your job and marry me.
My Betty King!
So you turned out the lights last night.
From the central switch in the basement. Sort of made my voice sound spooky.
Sure, that's just what I thought from the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, you certainly acted like it.
Benny, was Helen Freeland down there with you?
Yes. And she's sort of upset my plans.
Is she in the basement now?
She'll be up in a minute. You see, when you played that game last night, I was in the kitchen waiting to see how. After you turned the lights out, I figured it was a good time to scare that door from me.
But Benny King, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
So I grabbed the female, only it was the wrong one.
You mean you seized Helen Freeland?
When I discovered my mistake, imagine my embarrassment. But I didn't want her spilling the beans, so I forced her down to the basement, and when I explained things, she didn't want to leave me. But she even gave me the idea of using Albert Stillwell's name.
The idea, Benny King, carrying on with another bullet, but you knew it wasn't me from the first.
Noella, honey, I did not.
You did too! Oh,
Noella.
You don't even want to marry me!
Ella, listen to me.
No, I'll never listen to another man's words like Lynn!
Ella! Ella!
Good morning!
Well, Miss Freeland.
Oh, you've been hiding in my basement.
I owe you an explanation.
You owe everybody an explanation.
Mrs. Harwood, this is Helen Freeland.
You told me you were Vicky Wayne.
Well, she isn't. She's my father's secretary.
And for many years, she was also Albert Stillwell's secretary.
Mr. Parker, how do you know?
Miss Freeland had a conversation with Doris and me last night.
Oh,
He's quite right, Miss Wayne. We met here in the library. I've been hiding in the basement with Mr. King.
So Vinny told us.
It was Betty who turned out the lights. He could hear everything from the chimney, and he was afraid I was going to explain about his activities.
Sure, that's just what I thought from the first.
When the lights went out, someone seized me and thrust a note into my hand.
And all the time I was upstairs. Doesn't anybody know I own this place?
I had worked out in the first.
Yeah, I suppose that's why you wanted to go home.
The note warned me to leave immediately. Instead, I got back down to the basement. Mr. King had gone by then, so I remained there alone all night.
But who threatened you?
Miss Freeland, why did you come here?
I promised Albert Stillwell that I would keep Mrs. Harwood from selling this mansion until she discovered something.
Discovered something? What was it?
I don't know!
I do.
Neil?
John Bates wrote you that note.
Mr. Bates.
Are you certain?
Yes, you pulled a button from his coat sleeve last night. I found it later on the floor of the dining room.
How do you know it belonged to him?
It was missing from his suit this morning.
thought you weren't here this morning.
Bates was up and dressed before I left.
And that proves I wasn't guilty, doesn't it?
And it also proved that Bates knew something about this house and wanted Miss Freeland out of the way.
Sure, that's exactly how I had it figured out.
I'll be quiet, Bob.
Last night, Susan Bates told me that her husband had worked at the Avenue Jewelry Shop in the city. And Miss Freeland said that her husband worked at Albert Stillwell had given her an expensive diamond. Those two facts gave me an idea. So I drove into the city and I stopped at that jewelry shop. It was there I confirmed my suspicions.
What do you mean?
Susan Bates was right. Her husband had worked at the Avenue Jewelry Shop, and during that time, the company sold Albert Stillwell many valuable diamonds. Evidently, Bates guessed you knew nothing about this, Mrs. Harwood. He must have thought that Albert Stillwell hid those diamonds, probably someplace in this house.
Heavens! That explains why Mr. Stillwell said you weren't to sell the mansion. Mr. Bates knew more than I did.
And undoubtedly, he heard your conversation with Doris and me last night. So he wrote you that note and waited down here in the dark for an opportunity to get it to you.
And when Benny turned out the lights,
Exactly.
Oh, but Neil, supposing he found the diamonds and we let him get away.
No, he didn't. He said this morning that he was anxious to remain over the weekend. He thought Miss Freeland was out of the way and that he'd have plenty of time to look for those diamonds.
And then he heard her voice and beat a hasty retreat.
You mean there's diamonds hidden in this house?
I have every reason to believe it.
Imagine diamonds.
No wonder Mr. Bates wanted to buy this place.
Well, where are the diamonds? Everybody look. We'll play a game.
Very remote.
But why didn't Albert leak the diamonds to Mother publicly instead of hiding them?
Well, that's Uncle Albert for you. Always wanted to be different. Everybody look for the diamonds.
Wait, Mrs. Harwood, I was thinking, what was it that you said you and your uncle quarreled about?
He wanted me to be a school teacher. He wanted me to read Dickens.
Dickens! Maybe that's the key.
Well, what are you doing?
I'm reading Dickens.
Goodness, nobody can read that fast.
Neil, do you think
You can't hide diamonds in books.
Diamonds aren't easy pickings unless you go to the Dickens.
Oh, yeah.
Nice!
Oh, there's something in there.
Here they are!
the diamonds?
A compartment filled with them.
Oh, but that boy looked like all the others.
Yes, Albert Stillwell placed a book cover on this box. The diamonds would have never have been discovered unless the book was open.
Look! There's dozens of them. Oh,
Albert wanted you to read Dickens, Mrs. Harwood. He knew that if you ever did, you would find those diamonds.
And that's one of the books I was kicking around last night. Imagine me tossing it around a fortune.
Mrs. Harwood, it happened.
it certainly
I
did.
mean, I'm gonna have a new career.
Oh, it's made me the happiest man in the world.
Uncle Albert made me the happiest man in the world, too.
Tomorrow.
If you're into jewel, Mrs. Harwood.
Well, that's nothing. I've got a whole box full of them.
I hope you're not disappointed.
Oh, disappointed? I've never been so elated in my whole life.
But Mrs. Harwood.
She's speaking of something else, Ella. Mother's just had a pleasant surprise.
So I never thought I'd get out to what happened.
If I ever catch you kidnapping females again, you know, I'll chew you in pieces. Come along, ducky.
This doesn't.
Oh, well, thank goodness I didn't break up that romance. I'm afraid I've given everyone a frightful weekend.
I should say you haven't.
I second that statement.
Miss Wayne, will you ever forgive me?
Oh, of course I will.
Miss Freeland, you certainly are loyal to the people you work for.
I can hardly wait to tell Father what you've done. He'll be proud to have such a secretary.
But what might think of his son in law?
Oh, what do we care? We'll have a summer hotel, won't we?
You mean you and Mr. Emerson are...
As soon as I get your marriage license.
Marriage? Marriage? Who said that?
I did, Mrs. Harwood. Miss Wayne has consented to be my wife.
Goodness, is that what happens to people who spend a weekend in my home?
And Carl is giving up his old stock and bond business on Monday.
No, he can't do that. A not yet.
Why not?
Well, you've got to change these diamonds into bonds for me.
You mean it, Mrs. Harwood?
Yes, you don't expect me to gaze at them for the rest of my life, do you?
Of course you must tell Mother. She'll expect you to market the diamonds and invest the money for her.
Why, with a commission for a sale like that, I have enough to put down on a swanky hotel.
And I got just the location for you. This mansion.
Oh, of course, we'll buy this estate. Your commission should be enough for a down payment.
Splendid.
Thank goodness that's settled.
I'll handle all the details. For business deals and marriage hopes, look to Vaughn. He knows the ropes.
I just can't believe it. I sold my house and gained a fortune besides. It's like eating your cake and still having it.
Mother, you have Neil to thank for all of this.
I guess so. Goodness, maybe we'd better keep him.
Mother, do you mean it?
Well, yes, it might be nice to have a man like that in the house. Why, he might even know how to get rid of paying traffic fines.
And at least, I promise I shan't try to get rid of you, Mrs. Harwood.
Well, Neil, you can marry my daughter on one condition.
And what is that?
The next murder story you write, I'm to be the hero in it.
It's a deal.
Well, then get busy while I go to work.
What are you doing?
I'm looking through Dickens. This is one author who puts a wealth of material in his books.